Brought to you by Capital One. Capital One wants to build a better bank, one that feels and acts nothing like a typical bank. It's why they're reimagining banking by offering accounts with no fees or minimums and one of the best savings rates in America. You can open a Capital One account from anywhere in 5 minutes. That's banking reimagined. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Capital One, N.A.
September means one thing, football. Before you head to the stadium, make the switch to Pennzoil to make sure you get the most out of your drive. Pennzoil Synthetics give you complete protection for top engine performance so you can get to every game on time. Make the switch to Pennzoil today.
Hey, good Tuesday. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You can get in touch with us, 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, at Golic and Wingo, or give us a call, 860-506-5505. You feeling good?
I'm feeling good. It's football week. We just got college week number 1. Had a great time in Notre Dame. Enjoyed ourselves. It's been great looking back at college week 1. Some interesting things that are going on. I love the fact we had a Sunday night game and a Monday night game, as we'll get into with Florida State and Virginia Tech. But now, we get ready for the NFL. We are jumping into it. As we said, this week starts at, we go until February. Beautiful thing.
Yeah. And it's a good time.
The great thing about the NFL is your team can turn it around so quickly. Yep. We've seen 5-11 teams win the Super Bowl the next year. So everybody will do their prognostications, but how many times have we seen 4 or 5 new teams in the playoffs that weren't in the playoffs the year before? It happens that quickly, and I think that's what's so great about being a fan of the NFL is your team. It's amazing. Even Cleveland Brown fans, they're
optimistic.
0 wins, and the over and under is 6.5.
That's crazy.
There are people that are, that's over. They're a 7-8 win team. That would be an incredible turnaround for them. But we've seen turnarounds like that in the NFL. We know it's possible if things come together, if you can stay healthy, if all of a sudden your defense, is a turnover opportunistic team. You never know what's going to happen. And that's the beauty of this league. A quarter of the way through, you have surprises. Halfway through, you have surprises. By the 3-quarter mark, you're wondering, okay, where's the attrition for most teams? Who's had some bad injuries out there that could affect you along the way? And then that can even get thrown out the window for the fact that the Super Bowl champ Eagles lost their quarterback who was playing great and one of the best left tackles in the game during the season and still won the Super Bowl.
That's how crazy it was last year in Philadelphia. Because people always say, who's your Super Bowl pick in August? I'm like, well, who's getting hurt? Tell me that first and foremost, then I can tell you. And the fact that the Eagles were able to overcome both losing their left tackle, I think, in October, and then their MVP quarterback in December, and still win it all last year, simply amazing. So we're looking forward to that. Let's get into what's trending, and what's trending in tennis is something that had never happened before on 2 different levels. John Millman, a journeyman Australian, had never beaten a top 10 player in the world. So, of course, on Monday night, all he did was take down the greatest player in the history of the game, Roger Federer, and it was the first time that Roger Federer had lost to the U.S. Open at the U.S. Open to a player ranked outside the top 50 in the world. Millman came in ranked number 55.
No doubt one of the storylines of this U.S. Open has been the heat and how it's affected early on in this. We saw players dropping out, not able to finish. Breaks added to the men's side, something that hadn't been done here. So that's been a big story, and it was last night. Even though the temperatures weren't in the 90s or the 100s, they were in the 80s, but the humidity was about 75%, and Roger Federer flat out admitted it got to him. Said he was never able to get his air, and we all know that if you're in that aggressive situation, at some point you get that second wind,
yes.
And he said he was never really able to get that. Even that said, he wins the first set. He's serving with 3 shots to win the second set. And he loses it. Third set, he had 1 shot to win that set and loses it to Millman, who from Brisbane, Australia, where they live in humidity out there. He was able to, bottom line, as Federer said, he was able to handle it better than I was.
Absolutely he was. Federer could not get control of his serve in that second set. I think he went 2 for 20 on his first serves in that first service game where Millman had 8 break points, I believe, and Federer finally held. But you could just tell that he was not doing well with the heat. Obviously, if you're from Brisbane, Australia, it's one of the hottest, muggiest places on the planet. You deal with the heat, and even better, John Millman was able to deal with the post-game press conference to perfection, knowing that he faces Novak Djokovic next.
Last time I played him, I got 3 games at Queen's, so let's hope a few more. No, but look, I'm playing some good tennis right now. Novak's an incredible player. He's playing such good tennis right now. I think off Wimbledon, winning Cincinnati also. He moves incredibly well. He's another guy that I've looked up to with his game style and the way he goes about it. So, look, it's 1 o'clock now. I probably should try to get a recovery. I've got a 7 o'clock in the morning fantasy draft, so I'm going to get up for that and hopefully have a good draft. I'm second pick. I don't know whether to go Gurley or Le'Veon Bell.
Well, first of all, love that answer. Second of all, since Le'Veon Bell has not shown up yet,
I'd go Gurley.
I'd go Gurley.
I'm
not saying he's better. I'm saying there's a little less certainty with Le'Veon Bell than there is Todd Gurley.
There really is. We got into talk about Le'Veon Bell in the last hour. Is he going to report? Is he going to try and miss a couple games for less wear and tear on his body?
Right.
Because if it's a last year in Pittsburgh for him, will they try and really run him into the ground before he leaves? But you got to love that. The guy just played a monster match
of
the
his
best
life.
in the world. Yeah. Now he's got to play Djokovic. He's worried about his fantasy draft.
I have so much respect, and somewhere Matthew Berry weeps in joy hearing that and says, #FantasyLife. By the way, Golic and Wingo reminding you, we'll be live from Green Bay this Friday covering the Bears and Packers. That's not a fantasy, that's reality. Part of ESPN Radio's Fall Football Tour brought to you by Grainger, the products and services you need when you need them. Grainger's got your back to help keep your facility running. Grainger, for the ones who get it done. Speaking of Chicago, it's not enough for the Cubs and Brewers to play intense games, almost with a playoff-like atmosphere as they did again on Monday. They also seem to get into each other's skin off the field. New Cubs pitcher Cole Hamels added to the rivalry after the Brewers' 4-3 walk-off win, though he wouldn't quite describe it that way. He said, quote, "When you have the majority of Cubs fans in the stands, I don't know if that's a rivalry," he said bluntly. "They aren't going to like me for that comment, but look at the ticket sales. When they start to get a little closer and their fans sell out, then I think that's the kind of understanding of a rivalry. But Cubs fans travel well."
Wow.
Shots fired.
Wow. As the Brewers are sitting there just 4 games back, that's where he decided to go, saying it's not a rivalry because of the fan situation, not the play on the field, when the Brewers have been having a heck of a year this year. Interesting way to come out. But that's backing your fans. He's not in it to have the Milwaukee fans like him, so he doesn't care. So that's always interesting when a player does that. But as I said, fans will love that for him, and when he's out in Chicago, I'm sure he'll get a few beers bought for him.
No question about it. Look, the Cubs and Cardinals, that's the biggest rivalry between those two teams.
Yeah,
the Brewers, the Brewers are doing great. Don't get me wrong. And they're a game and a half ahead of the Cardinals right now, and second place in that division. But that's a tightly bunched division between the Cubs, Brewers, and Cardinals. 5.5 games separating those 3 teams for the start of during the finish of the regular season.
Listen, the Brewers are the first wild card team right now. So, I mean, they get that one game play-in. Or, I'm sorry, that's the postseason.
Exactly right.
Whatever.
However you want to call it. The first in. Or the first 4 is the NCAA.
You tried so many lines.
Couch it any way you want. It's a play-in. Yeah. That's what it is, and you still get celebrated as part of the postseason. But we all know what it is and what it is. And what it isn't is a win for Florida State.
Oh, boy.
Josh Jackson threw 2 touchdown passes, one early, another late, as the 20th-ranked Hokies of Virginia Tech handled number 19 Florida State in the rain 24-3 to spoil Willie Taggart's debut in Tallahassee, Mike.
Wasn't the prettiest game in the world. Virginia, or I should say Florida State, did have some chances to get back in this game. Goal line situation in the second quarter that they really kind of messed up and couldn't get in the end zone. But even when they were there, give Virginia Tech credit for a goal line stand there as well. Virginia Tech does exactly what Beamer ball still is, even though Frank Beamer has not been the coach there, is a special team touchdown. Block punt for a touchdown. That's a score for Va-Tech. You're used to seeing that as well. And a tough defense there, led by their D coordinator, Bud Foster, who's been there about 60 or 70 years. Right in that area there. It was a good win for Virginia Tech. And now for DeAndre Francois, he started the opening game last year against Alabama, hurt his knee in that one and missed the entire year. This was his first game back, ends up with 3 interceptions, even though his completion percentage was pretty good. He was harassed. He was made to run a lot as well. Just an ugly game. 5 turnovers for Florida State in this one. So last year they start the season getting beat by Alabama, what it was, a 24-7, and they get drubbed this year as well.
Yeah, listen, first time they've had back-to-back seasons starting with losses since 88-89, and this was the debut of Willie Taggart. as Florida State's new head football coach, and let's just say it wasn't the debut he was looking for.
There's been so much positivity around the program since you took over. Does this put a damper on it at all?
I think it does a little bit. Again, whenever you lose, we don't like losing. So you lose, of course it's a little damper, but it's not the end of the world. We got to get back to work and, again, get that momentum back on our side. And the only way to do that is get back to work and go win a ball game. And we got another opportunity on Saturday, and we got to put this behind us, a 24-hour rule, and move on.
It's always interesting, especially early on, how you win or how you lose. I'm talking now from a player. When you go into that film room, so you lose a bad game like this, Willie Taggart and the staff very well may go in there and be kind of tame, kind of obviously point out the mistakes, but they want to keep these guys in it and say, we got a long season to go. This one didn't go well. Let's build from that. You get a Michigan State team or a Penn State team pulling out wins on teams they were heavily favored on. You may get you'll certainly get yelled at for it being as close as it was, but you want to keep that team. A lot of times it's a team that wins by a blowout, right? You feel good about yourself, and all of a sudden you go into films and you get crushed by the coaches because they don't want you getting too full of yourself because you had a big first win for the season. So a lot of times it's those players that kind of walk in feeling good about themselves that end up walking out going, wait a minute, did we lose that game?
What just happened?
The way that we just got reamed in those film sessions?
Yeah, and by the way, for the first time since 1975, both Florida State and Miami have started a season 0-1. All right, Golic and Wingo here with you, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Again, Week 1 fully ensconced and done in the college football season. We're getting for Week 1 to start in just 2 days of the NFL regular season, Thursday night in Philadelphia when the Falcons come into Philadelphia to take on the world champion Eagles. But, of course, the Monday night double dip is one thing we're really looking forward to. You got Sam Darnold making his first career start on Monday Night Football. And then you have a very interesting juxtaposition, Mike.
Boy, you do, don't you?
In that second game, you have the Rams taking on the Raiders, and the juxtaposition we're talking about is the fact that you have one team, the Rams, that went all in on paying their best player,
sure did.
Aaron Donald, at the time.
They played plenty of players.
Yeah, true, this offseason. But they gave Aaron Donald, at the time, the richest deal for a defensive player in NFL history, and it was like a good 2 days, because 2 days
30
later,
hours.
30 hours.
30 hours.
So just over 1 day.
Yep.
1 day plus. 30 hours later, Khalil Mack gets traded away from the Raiders for a couple of number ones and gets the newest, richest paid contract in defensive history for the Chicago Bears.
What did you think? You weren't here yesterday. You didn't get a chance to comment on that from both sides of it, whichever side you want to start on first. What did you think of that move?
Well, first of all, I'll say I think Ryan Pace is my new favorite GM in the NFL because he is willing to do whatever. He traded picks to get Mitchell Trubisky. Now, Mitchell's got a hit for that to work, but he is not afraid to go out there and bring in the talent. And obviously, when you give up 2 first-rounders, you're all in on Khalil Mack. Now, I think Khalil Mack is much more a settled commodity than Mitchell Trubisky is. So I love that part of it about Ryan Pace. I love the fact that he's willing to roll the dice. Here's what I'll say about the Raiders deciding to part ways with Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is literally, not figuratively, not maybe, he's literally the type of player you build your team around. Let's be honest, first-round picks are nice, but at best, it's a 50-50 proposition that first-round pick is going to be the player you thought he was. Khalil Mack is not only the player you thought he was, he's better than that. He's an all-pro level player. I believe he's going to be a Hall of Fame player when it's all said and done. And I understand the money made them a little nervous. Whatever. He's in his prime. He's at a position that can wreak havoc on a football field, that can destroy offensive game plans. That's the guy you literally pay, and you don't pay other players. I don't understand it.
So let me ask you we got a lot of blowback yesterday from people who said Bill Belichick never would have done that, and look at how successful he is. So why should other teams do that? Why were you ripping the Raiders for not doing it when a guy like Bill Belichick, who's successful as he has, wouldn't have done that? And Bill probably wouldn't have. We've seen Bill would trade away guys before he'd have to pay in the big deals.
Because Bill is better at this than anyone has ever
done. What I was saying. I said that's one person that's doing this, and nobody has reached that level.
He is better at this than anyone. And let's be honest, Bill's drafting history is not really good. They just got rid of Cyrus Jones, who was a second or third round pick a couple years ago. Their drafting is not great. What he is great at, what separates Bill Belichick from almost anybody else in football, is his ability to compare apples to apples. Like apples to oranges, college to the pros, it's hit or miss sometimes. What he is best at is he can take somebody else's trash and turn it into treasure. And he can take his treasure and get leverage for it and find it in other ways. Like they traded away Chandler Jones, a sack artist. And when they traded away Chandler Jones, they went on to win the Super Bowl that year, even though everyone said you don't trade that position. They did not feel that Chandler was worth the money, and they could find it in other ways. Now, granted, it took an epic collapse from the Falcons for that to happen, but it worked. That's what makes Bill better than everybody, is that he can translate apples to apples better than anybody else in the NFL.
So, listen, I agree with you. I think it was a phenomenal move by the Chicago Bears and getting a second-round pick as well.
Yes.
I think that was, again, the Raiders get a 1, 1, 3, and a 6, and the Bears get Khalil Mack and a second-rounder next year. So I do think that was a good move.
I mean, that front seven for Chicago, with all the players, Eddie Goldman up front, Leonard Floyd, Akeem Hicks. I mean, they're good.
They are. And my whole point on the Raiders was when you draft someone in the first round, you hit your knees and thank God that they turn out like Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, Zach Martin, Odell Beckham, all in the same draft, by the way, and all became the highest paid at their positions, and obviously on the defensive side for Khalil Mack in all of football. So that's what you want. So that's why I asked yesterday when we talked to other guys who had been in locker rooms is, how do you think the locker room, the players are going to feel in Oakland about that? Here's the best player and you won't even pay him. How about the next? All right, you got yourself 2 ones. What happens when you draft one of those number ones and in 3 years they're a great player again, a transcendent player? Are you not paying that person then? Right. Because now you've shown you're not really going to pay that guy.
Here's the deal. What's the Raiders' motto? Just win, baby.
Yeah.
That is all they have to do. If they win, this is fine. But the moment they start 1-3, 2-2, 3-4, 4-6, then people are like, what's going on here? Because the other thing people need to understand with what the Raiders have done, not only did they trade away a transcendent player in his prime, which you never do, they also have the oldest roster in the NFL by a significant number. And not just going into this year, it's the oldest roster we can find as long as we have kept records of how old your average roster is. And they went significantly up. I think it was 26.1 a year ago to 27.4 or 5. So not only did they trade away their best player, there's no other way of saying it. He was their best player. They chose to trade away their best player. They also decided to go with an older roster. Those are two things that usually do not bode well for long-term success.
And you throw in the fact that the deal that they would have done there would have taken you through the new CBA.
Correct.
And you would have had your best player moving to your new spot in Las Vegas.
Correct.
So for anybody to say $90 million was too rich, you're paying your coach $100 million.
Yeah.
You're paying your coach $100 million guaranteed dollars.
Yeah. To that point, our listeners have called in and weighed in on that very topic.
There's no way you constitute paying Khalil Mack or any defensive player $140 million for 10 sacks a year. There's no way. And Chicago will find out. To pay a person that kind of money, they better get me 35 sacks in a season.
All right, well, let me just explain. Let's explain one thing.
Yeah.
Okay, he does more than sacks.
He does. Listen, to base everything on sacks, sorry, I'm going to disagree and say that's a ridiculous statement.
Correct.
Of what a guy like that can do in the run game, helping others in the pass game by the attention that he is going to get. You can't measure the intangibles that you cannot measure that don't show up in a stat sheet of what a guy like that does. If you're just looking at stats, I'm sorry, you're being too narrow with this whole thing. Now, would you like 15, 18, 19 sacks? Absolutely you would. But, if they're chipping or double teaming, it's difficult to do. But that opens it up for everybody else. And it's not just about sacks. When you have sacks, multiply that by 2 or 3 times as far as pressures on a quarterback. So that doesn't show up in a stat sheet. When you pressure the guy and the quarterback throws an interception, that could have been because you got the quarterback running because of the pressure you got on him. So looking just at sacks to me is so overblown.
I agree. I think sack. Look, you obviously want to get the quarterback on the ground as much as you can, but if you base it simply on sacks, you're basically saying an offensive lineman could have a great game and then screw up on one play per game, and that's 16 sacks. That doesn't say whether or not the offensive lineman had a great game or whether the defensive lineman or the rush end had a great game. It just they beat him on that one play.
Right.
But make no mistake about this. This decision to go down this road rests on one person and one person only, as our Adam Schefter said on Freddie and Fitzsimmons.
If this were entirely Reggie McKenzie's decision, I don't think it would have went like that. But it did, and it's because it's Gruden's show. He's got the 10-year contract. He's got the power, the leverage, and that's the call that he felt was in the best interest of the Raiders. And, you know, there are disagreements between head coaches and GMs all the time. That's not unusual. That's common. And in this particular case, John Gruden had a feeling that he was doing what was best for the Raiders.
And listen, we played the John Gruden sound yesterday of John saying people out there are trying to divide us. You know, we were all in unison here. I get that. And he's got to say that. But let's understand, in every organization, you can have all the voices you want talking and everybody communicating and saying everybody has input. There is one person,
one voice,
that makes it the final decision. And with the Raiders, that's John Gruden.
Without question.
You're not giving the guy $100 million for 10 years to come in there and not make those kinds of decisions. So while I agree he gets input from everybody else, he is going to go with the way he feels.
Yeah, and listen, Gruden had a $100 million contract. He's got the power. And very simply, if they win, this becomes nothing for this season. But if they start slow, those players that you were talking about start looking around, well, geez, do you think we could do a little better if Khalil Mack? Look at the reactions. You know, they all say they're over it now. They're only over it if they win. If they don't win, they're not over it. It's just that simple. And then the onus, as John Gruden said, look, we're going to be second guest on this till the cows come home.
Right.
Winning is the ultimate deodorant. You win, it won't be a problem. You guys stumble, you're average or mediocre, you better believe it's going to be a huge problem, and that's just the way it goes. Coming up, the Eagles begin their title defense on Thursday with, as expected, Nick Foles under center. How can they stay motivated with the target on their back, going from being one of the hunters to the hunted? We'll talk to someone who might still be wearing his new gold jacket, Mike. Hey, Golic, if I were to throw the lines open right now to discuss who's the GOAT, we'd have no shortage of opinions, correct?
No, we would not.
But if I asked men to talk about their health?
Crickets.
Yeah, a recent Cleveland Clinic survey found 56% of men prefer to keep health concerns to themselves and not share them with anyone, not even their doctor. Cleveland Clinic is ranked #1 in the nation in heart and urology care, and they've heard it all before.
Make sure to visit clevelandclinic.org/mention it for answers to those 10 questions most men are afraid to ask.
Here's a little insider travel secret. There are tons of empty hotel rooms out there just waiting to be booked. That's why there's Hotel Tonight. Hotel Tonight partners with awesome hotels to help them fill their unsold rooms, which means you get incredible deals. And even though the name's Hotel Tonight, you can actually book in advance for tonight, tomorrow, and beyond. So if you want to start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels, start using Hotel Tonight now.
Yep, it all gets underway Thursday night in Philadelphia. It might be a little loud at the Link when they get going. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, including our next guest, who it was just great to see him over the Hall of Fame weekend, and so well-deserved, as Brian Dawkins, Pro Football Hall of Famer, now joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Brian, thanks for being with us. We'll get into the Eagles and the start of the season in just a minute, but I have to say I was absolutely riveted being there in Canton for your Hall of Fame speech and the things you wanted to share with people. Can you just tell us why you decided to say that at that time and get that out there about the problems that you sort of struggled with early in your career with mental health?
Oh, well, thank you, first of all, for having me on to talk about these things. The thing about it, Trey, is the fact that, you know, where I am and the Lord is calling me to do different things in my life. And so that was something that was on my heart that I wanted to make sure that I got out, because, like, as much as I love the game of football, there's another game that's happening to a lot of people, and that's the game of life. And so if I can do things from being transparent about some of the things that I've gone through to help others to come through and push through the things that they're going through, then I want to do that. I want to bless as many people as possible, you know, with courage and understanding that, like I said in my speech, that there's something greater on the other side of that.
And, you know, you doing that along with guys like in the NBA, Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan. I mean, so many times fans think of professional athletes as just kind of robots going out there and just doing their job and playing their sport for the entertainment. And when, as you mentioned, there's a human side to all of this, and the more that players like yourself bring awareness to that, the better off for everybody. So that it was an incredible speech, and so well-deserved seeing you in that gold jacket. It was all very, very cool, and you got there because you played great especially during all seasons, but when they started. So take us back when you were playing to that first week. Preseason's out of the way. You're getting ready for that first game and all that these players are going through to get hyped for that first real game.
I just remember being extremely nervous. You know, not really knowing what to expect, because you hear as a rookie, you know, it's going to speed up. You know, it's not like the preseason; it's going to speed up. And so the preseason was already fast for me. So now you're going to tell me it's going to speed up even more. So that was even more anxiousness that I had. But at the same time, that I was extremely thankful to be there. And whatever they asked me to do, I was going to do it, because basically I played special teams, you know, for the most part. This is before I started. And so I was just anxious to get on the football field to see if I can be the best special teamer at the time that I could. But I do remember being extremely nervous.
Well, listen, whatever you were extremely, it worked out. Yeah. No question about it. As Brian Dawkins is with us, courtesy of Verizon. We'll get into that in just a minute. But look, your energy was palpable, and clearly the team fed off of you when you played. So who right now is going to be the guy that brings that energy for the Eagles as they begin this season with the celebration and the championship banner raised at the Link Thursday night? With, you know, Wentz is obviously not going to be there. Nick Foles is going to be the starter. Who's the igniter? Who's the instigator of that team to make sure they come at a championship level?
You know, I think going through what they went through, not last year but 2 years ago, allowed us to have tough conversations and allow guys to grow up leadership-wise, so that this past year, the reason why guys were able to step in and have the success that they had when other guys went down was because some of that was because of the leadership that had grown throughout that year. So the leadership is in place, I believe. I think that they have guys in the locker room to hold one another accountable. That's the one thing that I've said that needs to be in every locker room, in every business, to be honest with. Somebody to hold people accountable, but you have to be held accountable as well. So accountability is high in that locker room. So I don't think it's just one guy. I think they have a number of individuals in different positions. And I think the other thing is when you have guys of the caliber of Carson Wentz, I know he's not on the field, but I'm talking about guys who didn't play in the Super Bowl last year, Darren Sproles, and like guys want to now go out to see if they can win it for them as well. And then, you know, Jason Peters, I can't leave him off of this list. Like, those guys aren't going to let other guys slack or hold or not give their all or cut corners because, you know, again, they want to win a Super Bowl with them being on the field. So I think they have a lot of good things in place for them to try to repeat. It's not going to be easy. Nobody said it's ever going to be, and nothing really, I think, happens good when it's too easy. But at the same time, I think that they have things in place to have the opportunity to do it, and that's really all you can ask for.
Hall of Famer Brian Dawkins joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We just found out there was a little bit of contentiousness between Doug Peterson and the media over the starting quarterback. He names Nick Foles. Carson Wentz not physically cleared yet. In your mind, when Wentz is physically cleared and he is ready to go, do you immediately put him in, no questions asked, no matter how the season is going?
And that's why I'm glad I'm not the head coach. That's going to be a tough one. That will be a tough call. And I would have to guess that they're going to go straight with Carson and just get him in there, get him going. But at the same time, like that team is rolling, and they put a substantial, wins in the win column. And they're grooving. It's not just wins, but I'm talking about they're really, really grooving. The offense is flowing. They're putting up, 30 and 40 points a game. And that's going to be a tough decision for them to make. I would have to guess, though, that they would go back to Carson, allow him to get back on the football field so they can get that bond ready so the rest of the push of the season. I guess you can look at it like this as well, like because most teams breaks the season up in 4 games, right? So if for whatever reason they jump out, get 4-0, and then you put Carson in and they go 1-3, you still go back to the next 4, right?
Yeah.
And then you hope you can get into a rhythm to make the push at the right time. Because I've seen too many times that you see, like, even the Patriots struggle early in the season, and then all of a sudden they find what they need to find, they put the right grooves where they need to put them, and all of a sudden they are, doing what they do and making runs to the Super Bowl like they usually do in the in the later months.
Yeah, we always say never judge the Patriots by the first 4 games, but by the last 4. Never September, but usually November and December. And again, the Eagles trying to do something that hasn't happened in the NFC East since 03-04, repeat as champions when the Eagles did it those 2 years. Brian, we know you're doing some work on behalf of Verizon. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I guess the biggest thing that I can tell all the fans is to make sure that you go check out Verizon Up. Go to Verizon app and check out Verizon Up. You know, Verizon is doing a lot of quality things and allowing fans to redeem their points to get up and close and personal with some of us athletes, myself included. You know, Brent Selleck this week, they have opportunities to play flag football with Randall Cunningham. So they're going to be doing things like this throughout the year. And it's not just football. They have some other concerts that they're doing to get people in front rows and up close and personal with the artists. So I think that's something that, you know, you might want to check out if you like football. If you love football like I love football, I think you might want to check it out.
Well, listen, nobody loves football like Brian Dawkins. Just the way he came onto the field doing that worm and everything else was just great. Doc, listen, it was great to talk to you. It was great to see you up on that stage in Canton, and hopefully this is the first of many visits this fall, okay?
Indeed. Y'all be blessed.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Oh, just great. I loved having him here when he was here. He always brought the energy.
How much money do you think he'd be losing in the NFL today?
With the helmet issue?
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of time spent. Yeah. A lot of time spent away. Different time, different era, but you know what? A guy like Dawkins, Hall of Famer, would have found a way to get it done. All right, coming up, the best coach in the country made an announcement that we all expected a couple of weeks ago. You'll hear it, and we'll get to that after this, Mike.
It's been a long offseason without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this: FanDuel is ready for more. More ways to play, more ways to challenge your friends, and most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends, because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends' cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Will Kane. Age and state restrictions apply.
Hashtag winning. Hashtag Florida man. Hashtag scam that the company's paying for us to play golf. Hashtag summer solstice.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. I mean, seriously?
Hashtag sad. Hashtag bad emoji. Hashtag let's bring back red. Hashtag maybe the only player. Hashtag not what you're looking for unless you're Kevin Van Valkenburg. And hashtag what's wrong with Verlander. Hashtag first and last is
who are you?
Hashtag trader motif. Hashtag content. Hashtag summer book. Hashtag never give it up. Love it. Hashtag not really, because one of them was a Croatian own goal.
Stop that now.
I got rhythm. Sports Center brought to you by California Almonds. When you make this year's fantasy football picks, go with your gut. A gut powered by delicious California almonds, that is. 6 grams of energy-giving protein are what you need to dominate the roster and put your competition to shame. Own every day this season with California Almonds. Learn more at almonds.com. Did you realize you said hashtag so much that you did that, or was it just the pettiness of this show that threw it back in your face?
Oh, I'm assuming that listen. I've made a decent career out of really not thinking at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. Whatever happens, man. It just sort of comes out. There's not a lot of.
I was going to say our college education, and we both at fine institutions.
Yeah.
Mine way better than yours.
Probably academically, we're pretty good. And
haven't really been asked to use. Now,
no.
I could if I needed to. Let me just say
that.
Well,
you are good at the quick math.
I got a wonderful education at Notre Dame, at St. Joe's in high school, and at Notre Dame, and I just, in my professions,
don't need it.
Wouldn't really ask.
Don't need to do this stuff.
I was asked to decipher a playbook for many, many, many years, and now decipher sports.
I'll give you an example, all right? Make this easy for you. When I was a couple months away from graduating, I was a speech major. And they said, well, if you're
I think it shows well on this show.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. They said, if you're a speech major, you need to take one more lab science. And I said, well, then I'm not graduating as a speech major.
Wait a minute, a lab science?
I need one more lab
to be
science speech major. So we worked it out that I could graduate as a communication specialist.
We worked it out that I would give them a donation.
No. We figured out another path. And the path was one of the least resistance, because as you know, I have a long-standing philosophy.
It was my understanding that there would be no math.
Or science.
So you just wouldn't do one class?
No, I had to do one more, which would mean
you wouldn't do one more?
I was halfway through the semester.
Okay.
So I had to stay, and no, that would not have been good on many levels.
So we
found another way.
All right.
Which is what you have to do sometimes.
There you go.
As my good friend Herm Edwards says, any plan that can't be changed is a bad plan. And speaking of Herm,
you play to win the game.
We talked a lot, guys, about head coaches that had disappointing debuts.
Right.
Was there anybody that had a better debut than our guy Herm at Arizona State?
He had a good one.
Tap danced all over UTSA 49-7. They have a quarterback, a big-time wide receiver, and their defense. Now, I get it. It was UTSA.
Yeah.
I understand all of that.
Exactly.
But that game for Herm was absolutely perfect. You know why? Because it was a big win, and they had a bunch of penalties, so he could say, yeah, we won, but we got to get better at this,
exactly. And that's what he'll do. And theirs was an easier opponent than some of the other new coaches that we talked about. Willie Taggart last night at Florida State,
Kelly
losing to Virginia Tech. Chip Kelly, UCLA, losing to Cincinnati. And I'm drawing a blank on the third. Someone I just had the third.
Chip Kelly?
No, it was Chip Kelly. It was
Willie
Taggart, and there's doggone it.
There's another one.
There's another one.
That other coach that didn't do well.
I brought him up earlier and just went out of my head. I'm getting no help from anybody behind there. Kevin Sumlin. Thank you very much. Kevin Sumlin, Arizona. They lost to BYU. Good job back there, guys.
No,
Thanks
that
for all the
actually,
help.
just so you know, that was Stanzik.
Oh, was?
I'd like to say, I believe it was Kevin Sumlin. No,
if you waited another minute, we'd have been in break. Good job. Way to go. Way to be there for me.
Waited another minute. See him sweat for another minute
Holy
would have been really
smokes,
good.
Supposed to help us here.
Help me.
Help.
Speaking of help, Nick Saban has helped everybody out, and he's finally announced what we all knew was coming.
Everybody knows that, Tua is going to start, this game, and we're going to use Jalen's skill set in the future to help however we feel that he can benefit the team. And I just want to be clear with everyone that I have done this in the past, where we don't say who the starter is going to be for the first game, and we give both quarterbacks an opportunity to play in the game, which is exactly what we did in this game. Not a whole lot different than what we've done in the past. All right, so now we know, and you know.
He has done it in the past. I grant you that. I give you that. But to me, this was a different circumstance. When Jalen Hurts came out and talked about being disrespected and nobody was filling him in on the quarterback situation, to me, this was really about showing, hey, we respect you. We're thinking about you. You're part of the plans here. And you never know. Again, Tua, he's never started a complete season.
No.
You never know one play you could be back to Jalen Hurts. So that was, I think, all about the players and protecting Jalen Hurts.
It was, absolutely, because I think he has the utmost respect for Hurts and what he's been able to do to the program. Look, it would have been very easy for Jalen to say, I'm going to go somewhere else and try and play. Mm-hmm. He stuck it out through December, and he's there, and he is certainly a player that gives Bama options. Coming up, how long does Le'Veon Bell need to get ready? We'll ask someone who never missed a snap until his career ended. Stay with us.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's Hotspots.
Brought to you by Capital One. Capital One wants to build a better bank, one that feels and acts nothing like a typical bank. It's why they're reimagining banking by offering accounts with no fees or minimums and one of the best savings rates in America. You can open a Capital One account from anywhere in 5 minutes. That's banking reimagined. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Capital One, N.A.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's Hotspots.
Hey, good Tuesday morning. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You can get in touch with us, 100flowers.com Twitter feed at Golic and Wingo, or call in 860-506-5505.
What's going on, man? How you doing? All good with you?
Good.
Yeah,
Doing good.
Yeah.
Well, we had son back for the weekend. He's a little Labor Day excursion.
That's nice.
It was.
That's nice. Both he and your daughter out in California. Living together, by the way.
And amazingly haven't killed each other.
I was just going to say, that's pretty impressive.
It's been 3 months. I think the over-under was 2.5.
That's a good job.
So it's all working well.
You did that. That's good. I spent yesterday hosing out the filters of my pool.
You sound like a man who was alone in the house and looking for something to do.
Yeah, taking care.
So
I may be alone, but it doesn't mean I don't have a list. I finished that list. I have the landscape lights to be fixing and working out, and a toilet to fix. There's a list, my friend.
Yeah, I went through that yesterday. I started cleaning out the cobwebs in the garage because they'd just been there too long.
Is that actually on the list? Wouldn't it be cleaning the garage, or is it actually cleaning the cobwebs of the garage?
Seeing all those spider webs up in the corner. Oh, yeah, we'll sweep it out.
I mean, you did more than just find a cobweb and remove it,
There
correct?
were a few of them.
Okay.
Yeah, there were a few of them. But also, the grass clippings from the golf cart coming in there. And all that kind of stuff. Just get that garbage out because you know what's coming. We got like another month of good weather, and then the leaves will fall. It's going to be a disaster.
Yes, it is.
And then we make that subtle transition.
And we bring out the shovel.
But we're happy can't talk about that yet. But again, we are happy that fall is here because we are getting ready for football. We got a lot to talk about, and we'll get to that with our next guest in a couple of minutes. But first, let's start with what's trending, because FERT isn't a word.
No, it's not.
Pair of winner-take-all games in the WNBA semifinals tonight. First at 8 o'clock Eastern, the number one seeded Atlanta Dream play host to Elena Deladon and the Washington Mystics. Glad her bone bruise is okay. That was scary.
Yeah, that was.
The Mystics, by the way, have never reached the WNBA finals. And then at 10, Diana Taurasi and the Phoenix Mercury will play Seattle against the Storm.
Yeah, you want to talk about one that would have been over. Again, that happened with Elena Deladon, the knee bruise, in the second game, and Atlanta won that game and tied it up 1-1 in the best of 5. But so for her to not have hurt it seriously, to miss the series was huge, obviously, for Washington. She has some finals experience. She made it with Chicago, I believe, in 2014.
Yep.
And then Diana Taurasi, 13-0 in these types of games, in these winner-take-all games. And Sue Bird, by the way, is going to be playing with the mask on because she's playing with a broken nose for the 5th time in her professional career.
That's insane. She's not a boxer.
That's either very aggressively getting your face into the areas or getting your face in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yep. Yeah, well, either one. Either one worked. But
5 broken noses.
Did you ever break your nose?
No.
I broke it once. It wasn't fun.
No.
5 times? Good for her. And we'll see what happens. Not so good for Roger Federer, though, as the number 2 seed at the U.S. Open out in the 4th round, losing to Australian John Millman, who is ranked 55 in the ATP rankings. Why is that significant? This is the first time Federer has ever lost to a player ranked outside the top 50 at the U.S. Open.
You sit there and you hear about him talking about how the heat got to him, and it definitely affected him. 78 unforced errors, 10 double faults, but he wins the first set, and he's serving and has 3 break points, or not break points, but 3 service chances to win the second set. So, I mean, he's right there to go up 2 sets to love. And then he loses that one, and then he has another point to win the set in the third set and doesn't get it done. So even as bad as he felt and as bad as he played, he was right there to easily take that second set, but obviously it wasn't easily done since he didn't do it.
Well, he was struggling with his serve the entire night, and the reward for Millman after beating Federer is Novak Djokovic. So he was asked about that, and he gave one of the greatest answers of all time.
Last time I played him, I got 3 games at Queen's, so let's hope a few more. No, but look, I'm playing some good tennis right now. Novak's an incredible player. He's playing such good tennis right now. I think off Wimbledon, winning Cincinnati also. He moves incredibly well. He's another guy that I've looked up to with his game style and the way he goes about it. So, look, it's 1 o'clock now. I probably should try to get a recovery. I've got a 7 o'clock in the morning fantasy draft, so I'm going to get up for that and hopefully have a good draft. I'm second pick. I don't know whether to go Gurley or Le'Veon Bell.
Well, that may be decided for you, whoever has the first pick and direction they go. But if you do have a choice of those two, I'd probably lean to Gurley right now, since Le'Veon Bell hasn't reported.
Still not there. And by the way, John Millman now, friend of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, John Millman is now one of our guys.
And last I checked really quickly about Le'Veon Bell not reporting, you don't get any fantasy points for a player if they don't play, correct?
I can't
Just so I understand the rules of this?
Yes.
Okay.
If you put him in and he doesn't, you don't get he would have gotten
Or if
points.
he's not even on the roster.
No.
He's not scoring for you.
Those would all be bad things.
Okay.
But again, John Millman, now a friend of the show, and somewhere Matthew Berry and Field Yates are going, that's my guy. That's my guy, John Millman. And the Yankees are wondering when their guy is going to be back in the lineup. Aaron Judge's recovery from injury and return took a big step forward when he swung a bat, but Mike, he still hasn't really made contact.
Yeah, 25 swings on air, 25 swings at a ball on a tee. It's so you're over a month that he's been out. The fill-ins for him where they have not obviously gotten the job done. Guys that have taken his spot. They're 3.5 ahead of Oakland for that top wild card spot. They have 2 more games with Oakland. Don't play them anymore. Then still have obviously the Red Sox 6 times as well. But this is still a situation, Trey, where you can't rush it.
Right.
And this is, and I was going to say our next guest would know about this, but he really wouldn't because he never had an injury where he
came back from. He had one, and it was done.
But that's what happens with athletes is when you're hurt and you have a cast on or a brace and you're in the beginning of a rehab, it's easy.
Yeah.
You know you can't do anything. It's when all of a sudden you start doing your respective sport again and it starts feeling better, then you get antsy. You want to push it, and that's when you need the trainers to really say, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
We are gonna wait until you're ready, unless, of course, you're trying to get into the postseason. Then all bets are off. Get back on the field.
Then you rush it in.
Yeah.
You're telling me that they're not going to rush back Aaron Judge from injury. And here's how significant Judge is. Again, with him in the lineup, the Yankees are 64-33, winning at a 666 clip. In the games that he's missed, the 41 games, they're just 22-19, barely over 500. So with all the big bats in that Yankee lineup, it appears that Aaron Judge is, to quote Reggie Jackson, the straw that stirs the drink when it comes to that offensive firepower for the New York Yankees. Hopefully he'll get back sooner than later. Again, Golic and Wingo reminding you we'll be on the road Friday in Green Bay, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at Progressive.com. Football season is just around the corner, and as we said when we had him on last week, we'll be delighted to tell you that Joe Thomas will be joining us every week, and he joins us now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, the 10-time Pro Bowler who had salmon burgers with mayo and pickles yesterday.
I don't have a problem with that.
Joe, was it delicious? I'm not a huge mayo guy myself.
Well, you're wrong for that because mayo is absolutely delicious, and I was really struck on Twitter how many people that didn't realize that tartar sauce is just chopped up pickles and mayo put together. That was a big surprise for my Labor Day weekend.
Well, because I was just going to ask, why didn't you have tartar sauce? But before I asked it, I said in my head, well, that's basically what you had, pickles and mayo. You're right. That is tartar sauce. So I'm a big fan of it as well. So it had to be a good sandwich.
They try to sneak in mayo in all these places. They call it in all these other things. It's tartar sauce. It's aioli. No, it's mayo. It's the spawn of the devil. But we'll move on. We'll get to that. Well, that'll be another discussion, Joe, for another time. Let's talk about the big issue in the NFL right now, which is what the Raiders did with Khalil Mack. What did you think when you heard that they were trading him for 2 number ones?
It was a huge shock to me. It reminded me of, in a different sense, what happened when Reggie White went from the Eagles to the Packers when he sued the NFL and got his free agency and ended up going to the Packers. I mean, that's the type of move this was. You're talking about a premier pass rusher, one of the best in the game, probably going to be a Hall of Famer that's moving teams in the prime of his career. I mean, this is big news in the NFL. This changes the dynamic of the AFC. This changes the Oakland Raiders from contenders to now a team that's, in my opinion, maybe a bubble playoff team, but not really a team that can be a force. All of a sudden, the Bears are a team that really wasn't very good. Now they've got one of the premier defenses in the NFC. They're going to be a force every single weekend. Opposing quarterbacks in the NFC are going to have to worry about looking over their shoulder for a guy named Khalil Mack that's going to be breathing down their neck every single week. So this is a huge move in the NFL.
And Joe, just so you understand it, from the position you played at left tackle, people say, I'd never pay a guy who has just 10 sacks that kind of money. Explain that it's not just about the sacks. It's about what Mack is able to do on every single play and the struggles that he gave guys like you.
Well, it's not always about sacks. That's the number that everyone looks at, but it's really the disruption that he has on the offense. When we played the Raiders, you would have to always put two guys on him. So you completely are going to have to change your game plan right off the bat. Second of all, he's hitting your quarterback a lot more than it really shows up, which affects your quarterback on every single time he drops back because he's thinking about that guy. It's affecting how he's throwing. It's affecting how quickly he goes through his reads and how quickly he goes through his progressions. But also, Khalil Mack is one of those rare pass rushers in today's game that's extremely disruptive on first and second down against the run. You see a lot of pass rushers in today's game that are kind of specializing, coming in on second and long, coming in on third down, and really all they're doing is rushing the passer, and they're not effective stopping the run. But Khalil Mack is different. He's a rolling ball of butcher knives in the run game. He destroys tight ends. He makes it really almost impossible to run to the strong side of your formation, and so he can really kind of eliminate one side of the field in the run game. And there's not many guys like him in today's game, and I would say he's the best defensive end in today's game.
So, Joe, is there a domino effect at all that went on in that Raider locker room when they read about and heard about the trading of Khalil Mack?
Well, I'm sure that those guys are really surprised. I mean, you hear the reports going in that the Raiders are considering trading him, but you hear those rumors all the time, and you can't imagine that they'd possibly be true because you've got a guy here that, first of all, he doesn't have any issues. A lot of times you're going to trade a player who's perceived to be your best player, even at a premier position, because he's got an issue, he's not a good team player, he's not a leader, whatever the problem may be. But by all accounts, Khalil Mack is bought into the system. He's doing everything he's asked all the time. He plays hard. He practices the right way. He's one of the faces of that franchise. And all of a sudden to get rid of him, even for 2 first-round picks, I think was a shock to those guys in that locker room. And those guys are thinking the same thing that we are on the outside. They're thinking, wow, does this organization, does this front office not think we have talent to make a Super Bowl run right now? Are they trying to save draft picks for the future? And those are all the questions that are going to be going through those teams, the players in the Raiders locker room's heads.
Yeah, Joe Thomas with us, 10-time Pro Bowler. Joe, with that in mind, how critical is it for the Raiders and John Gruden to win right away? Because you know how this goes. Everybody has optimism the first 2 weeks of the season, and then sometimes reality slaps you across the face. So if the Raiders start 3-1, this won't be a problem. If they start 1-3 or 2-4, this is going to be a problem.
Exactly. When you get rid of a guy like Khalil Mack, you're going to try to sell to your team that, hey, the guy that's stepping into his shoes, he's going to do a great job. You know, we're not going to miss a beat. We're going to play better as a team, yada, yada. But as soon as that message starts to produce a couple losses, players are going to question what they're hearing, and they're not going to be buying into that message that they heard all preseason and that they heard right after they traded Khalil. So you got to believe that these first 4 weeks of the season now, the pressure has just been ratcheted up in that locker room.
Joe Thomas joining us, 10-time Pro Bowler, 7-time first-team All-Pro, first-ballot Hall of Famer in a few years when that comes up. As far as these teams naming starting quarterbacks, take us inside a little bit. How long do you think some of these teams already knew who the starting quarterback was, and how important is it to get that decision made, especially for that offensive line group that's going to be playing in front of that quarterback all year?
Typically in these situations, the front office knows who they want to win the job. And so really, it's sort of a biased analysis. In the Jets case, they wanted Sam Darnold to be their starting quarterback, I think, from the beginning. And for the most part, I would say 90% of the time, that guy is going to win, unless barring something catastrophic happening. And I think in this case, he was named the starter. He did what they expected him to do in the preseason, in training camp. I don't think he exceeded the expectations, but he did what that was enough for them to be able to name him the starter because that's what they wanted going into it. But it was just a matter of formalizing it. And I think those offensive linemen, those guys in that locker room, they kind of they were able to read the tea leaves, especially those veteran guys. You can really tell by how things are handled, by who's getting what reps, by what the coach is saying about certain players, by what the GM is saying. You can kind of understand that, okay, they really want this rookie to be the starter, and so it's only a matter of time as long as he's doing the right things before they name him the starter.
Joe Thomas with us. We all know who the starter is going to be for the Cleveland Browns Week 1. It's Tyrod Taylor. By the way, do you go Tyrod, as he said on Hard Knocks, or Tyrod? Because it gets very confusing at times.
You know, I was a Tyrod guy forever and ever, and then all of a sudden I tuned in and realized that he's a Tyrod guy. So now I'm just trying to change my brain. I'm an offensive lineman, so we're a little bit slow on the uptake, but I'm doing my best.
Okay, so it's Tyrod Taylor Week 1. In an ideal scenario for Hugh Jackson and John Dorsey, the general manager, look, they need to win. Okay, they have won one game in the last 2 seasons, and we all believe they're going to win multiple games this year. If it's working and they are winning, when does Baker Mayfield see the field?
I think in an ideal situation in John Dorsey, Hugh Jackson, Jimmy Haslam's mind, I think they want to see Baker Mayfield next year. I truly don't think that they want to see him out on the field at all this year. I think they want to go into this offseason with the quote-unquote quarterback problem of having a guy like Tyrod who's played really well, maybe even took the team to the playoffs, did a great job, and then they also have this young guy, Baker, who's done a great job, who they think can be the future of the franchise, and then they have to worry about, okay, what are we going to do? And in their mind, they're thinking, okay, we could trade one of these guys, probably be Tyrod, but I think they really don't want to see Baker at all this year. And really, if you see Baker, I think it's either A, due to an injury, or I think it's B, due to Tyrod not playing well and the team not winning the way they thought they should.
Joe, one of the big things going on in the preseason was how are they going to call the lowering of the helmet rule, the roughing the passer rule by adding a little bit to it. There were 71 total lowering the head penalties. There were 51 total roughing the passer penalties. Do you think that kind of starts to go the other way once this regular season starts, or do you still see a lot of flags?
I don't see this being a big flag during the season, to be totally honest. We see this all the time in the preseason when there's a new emphasis or a new rule where the officials are told to over-officiate it, to throw all the flags they can, and then we'll dial it back once the regular season starts. And really, when I think the owners got in the room and they came up with this rule, the intent was they just don't want to see tacklers lowering their head and hitting with the top of their head and using it like a battering ram, like a spear. And the same thing, when the ball carrier has the ball, they don't want to see them lowering their head and spearing their opponent. But outside of those two things, these incidental head contacts, these incidental lowerings, I don't think those are the type of things that the NFL wanted to have officiated, and I don't think we'll see those being called in the regular season. All
right, Joe, this always, and it's a question I get, which is somewhat laughable. People will ask me, who was the toughest lineman you played against, and my answer is pretty much any. But some of the greats, like I remember Reggie White would get asked who the toughest guy that was blocking him, and it was Tunch Ilkin, who played for the Steelers. Tunch had great feet and great hands. It was just something about it. He was able to occasionally block Reggie. How about you? Who was that toughest pass rusher that you faced the most that gave you the most trouble?
Well, I'm happy to hear that Reggie had a lot of respect for Tunch Ilkin. Actually, Tunch was a guy that I worked with a lot early on in my career to learn hands and stuff, and it was funny because Tunch was about 250 pounds, maybe, and Reggie was 300.
Yep.
So there was a big mismatch there, and a lot of guys probably handled Tunch pretty well, but the technique was able to overcome. So interesting sidebar there. But for me, a couple guys that always come to mind when people ask me that question, which, like you mentioned, is like everybody's favorite question when they're a fan. DeMarcus Ware was a beast. Dwight Freeney, obviously with his spin move, nobody's ever done it better before or since. And Terrell Suggs is another guy that we had some great battles. I've played him, over 20 times in my NFL career. And those are 3 guys that all had the combination of strength, speed, and quickness and great moves. And they were always really difficult to handle.
Listen, and I think we buried the lead here. Maybe the greatest name for the history of the NFL for an offensive lineman is Tunch Ilkin. I mean, it doesn't get any better. You have to be an offensive lineman if your name is, or a long snapper, if your name is Tunch Ilkin. Joe Thomas, 10-time Pro Bowler with us. We look forward to his visits every week, despite the fact that he loves mayo. Joe, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Joe.
I didn't realize mayo was controversial. Let's put that out there. But thanks for having me.
No, I just hate it. It's not controversial. I just can't stand it.
I'm with you, Joe, all the way, man. Thanks,
tartar sauce, aioli. I always try and sneak it in.
You don't like tartar sauce either?
It's got mayo.
All right.
I don't like mayo.
Grow up.
No.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations. Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
It's been a long offseason without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this. FanDuel is ready for more. More ways to play, more ways to challenge your friends, and most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends' cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/WillKane. Age and state restrictions apply.
We are delighted to be joined in studio now by our NFL analyst, Damien Woody, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. And there are really two topics I want to get into heavily with you with the Straight Talk. And one is one that you are all too familiar with. For those that don't know, Damien Woody was a member of the New England Patriots in 2003 when, right before the start of the season, they traded away one of their best players. That would have been safety Lawyer Malloy, correct?
I believe he was cut.
Cut, yes, cut.
Yes, he was cut, yeah.
That's correct. He was cut. And the locker room went nuts right before week 1 of the regular season. And then week 1 of the season, you guys went to Buffalo and got smoked 31-0. And whatever tension was there when Lawyer got cut was amped up by a million after that loss, correct? So in context of what the Raiders just did with Khalil Mack, and they all say that players now say they're over it now. But let's say week 1, Aaron Donald wreaks havoc on Derek Carr, and they have all kinds of issues. What will that locker room be like?
Oh, the locker room will be squarely looking at John Gruden because think about it. If you're the Oakland Raiders, you just trade away your best player. Your best player, a guy that's projecting to be a future Hall of Famer. Those type of guys don't come around very often. A guy that, and Mike, you know this, just being a player, you look at Khalil Mack, that guy can help you win games, and you trade him away for a couple draft picks that you don't even know. That's basically a 50-50 crapshoot. And again, week 1, I think the first couple weeks of the season is going to be a big telltale sign in that locker room. If they don't win, boy, it's going to be a lot of noise in that Oakland Raiders locker room.
So two things that, and I've answered these, and I want to get your take on them. The blowback of people that are happy the Raiders didn't do that is the fact that the Raiders were a lower echelon defense last year, and they had Khalil Mack. So what's the difference? They had him. Here's your great player, but we're still not a very good defense.
You add to the defense. That's my thing. You continue to draft and add pieces to the defense. And I think the one point that a lot people just, I don't know, remiss or not talk about it as much, the cap keeps rising.
Right.
It's not like the cap is just stagnant and we just sign this guy to this massive deal. The cap rises every single year. So don't tell me this garbage that you can't afford him. You can afford Khalil Mack. You just choose not to pay him the type of money that he feels like he's worth.
And the other is Bill Belichick would never do this. Bill Belichick would never pay a guy this type of money. So if Bill wouldn't do it and he's so successful, then maybe that's the road that John Gruden's trying to go down.
That was one thing I actually tweeted out this week. I'm like, there's only one coach that can actually get away with this. And people be like, you know what? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Bill Belichick.
Because he's done it.
He's done it before.
Been successful.
There's no other coach or organization that I would trust in this particular situation with this player and Khalil Mack.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Damien Woody here with us in studio. So, look, this was clearly John Gruden's decision, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Adam Schefter was on with Freddie and Fitzsimmons and said, yeah, look, they're all on the same page now because that's what they have to say. But when you give a guy a $100 million contract guaranteed as a head coach, you know where the shoe drops. It's with him.
That's right.
So, okay, if you're John, now how do you sell this to the team? What can you say to these? Because look, they'll say all the right things in public, and they've all said on Twitter, "I can't believe it." Well, we're back on. Shock's over. Shock's only over until you lose a couple of games. Then the shock's back in. That's just the way it goes. So, if you're John Gruden, how do you sell this to the team?
The only thing that you can sell is that we got a game this week. There's nothing we can do about the move that we made as far as trading away Khalil Mack. We got to change our focus to the Los Angeles Rams. That's the only thing he can really say, because the guys in the locker room are going to look at it like, wait a minute, this guy was our best player, and we just traded him away for a couple draft picks. We don't even know where these draft picks are going to fall. We don't know if these guys are going to pan out. So the only thing that the coach can really do at this point is we need to focus all of our attention on the Rams. Period. What else can you sell the players on? The players aren't stupid. They know. You can't fool the players. Mike, you know that.
Listen.
You can't fool the players. The players know.
But the bottom line is the players have to prepare for a game. That's
true.
It's the same thing in Pittsburgh when they were asking Marquise Pouncey, whoa, Le'Veon Bell's not there. How's it going to affect you? He's like, it's not. We can't worry about it. We got to play. We got a game to play. We got meetings to go to, practice to go to, film to watch. If Le'Veon's not here, he's not here. We still got to go play a game. And speaking of playing a game, we have a rookie quarterback that's going to play. If memory serves, you were on the Jets when Sanchez started as a rookie.
Yes.
So take us now inside. Sam Darnold starting as a rookie, the youngest rookie to ever start, by the way. What is that offensive meeting room like? How was that working with the offensive line? No matter how poised he'd look or he's looked really good, he's still a rookie starting in his first NFL real football game.
Well, I think the situations are different. There's differences between when Sanchez came and Sam Darnold. Our team was we had better personnel when Mark Sanchez came along. We had the best offensive line in the league, and we had the number one defense in the league. So Mark just comes in, and we're just trying to, ease him in to that role as being.
He can truly manage the team.
He can be a manager. Listen, Sam Darnold's in a situation where they got a couple pieces, but there's still a lot of holes in that Jets roster. Now, granted, this guy has played like lights out. Everyone in that building has been just blown away by his maturity and his way to his ability to absorb the playbook and transfer it onto the field. But he's going to have his lumps. He's going to have his growing pains this year. I mean, they start out the first, they got 3 games in 11 days. I mean, think about that. You're the youngest quarterback since the merger, and you have 3 games in 11 days. This is not going to be an easy ride for Sam Darnold. But listen, the brain trust with the Jets feel like this guy's been ready, shown all summer.
Those games at Detroit and then home to Miami and at Cleveland. So certainly all, games that, it's not like they're playing the Patriots or some of the best teams in the league out there. So be interesting how he starts out.
Absolutely. As Damien Woody is in with us in studio, our NFL analyst. And listen, this is going to be a topic that's going to have a lot of discussion for the next few days and maybe even going forward. Nike has decided to put Colin Kaepernick as one of the face of their 30th anniversary of their Just Do It campaign, and this obviously has ignited a lot of controversy on both sides of the issue. What was your take on them going down this road? Because normally companies try to stay out of this realm for fear it will impact their business. Nike seems to think it's the exact opposite.
Well, listen, when you're a huge company like Nike, you're going to do some type of research. You're not going to just make a decision like this off the whim. They've done all the calculation, all the research possible to make a calculated decision as to have Colin Kaepernick as a face of this campaign. So Nike is a global company. Global. They probably understood there's probably going to be some controversy, some blowback behind it, but because they're global and they have so many people that buy their product, I think they figured the risk is the reward is worth the risk.
How will that look? How do you think it'll look for the NFL for them? They're partners with Nike, so one of the faces now of Nike in this new campaign is a guy who's suing the NFL.
Yeah, that's
for collusion.
That's the argument. That's what I found like the irony in this whole situation is the guy that's the face of this campaign is involved with a lawsuit that's moving forward. By the way, as far as collusion is concerned, so makes for awkward partnership, if you want to say, between Nike and the National Football League.
And listen, it's not going anywhere because Nike and the NFL have just agreed to a new 8-year contract. Okay?
Right.
So it is a new 8-year contract. And this is the point, and I'm glad you brought this up, when you're talking about the money for Khalil Mack. Yeah, you're like, how can you pay him that much? Well, guess what? In a couple of years, you're going to get a ton more money because the rights for the Thursday night games went up. When Papa John's left, how quickly Pizza Hut came in there for more money and got that deal. The Verizon re-upped. We just had Nike re-up. And, oh, by the way, again, the biggest carrot that they can still dangle out there in negotiations, streaming rights.
Right.
That's going to go up. So we can all look and say, how can you pay them that much? Because you know what you're going to get.
Well, as you said, and you're correct, and we've talked about it as well, the cap's going to keep going up. Everybody keeps not wanting to be that, oh, you can't have a $20 million cap quarterback and a $20 million cap non-quarterback. It's going to happen.
It's going
to be there for multiple teams. It's going to happen many times over.
That's right.
Because there is money out there to be had, and it's going to keep going up. So you're going to be having that I'm not saying every team, but it is going to happen. The Raiders would have been the first. And again, all these deals we're talking about are all for next year when that cap number hits big for Khalil Mack, Odell Beckham, Aaron Donald, and such, to have the 20-20 guys. As I said, that's just a reality of what's coming in the NFL.
Yeah, and when the Raiders move to Las Vegas, they're going to be in that new stadium, they're going to be so flush with cash. Don't sit there and tell me you can't afford it. You got cash. You got cash coming from all different directions. So
you're paying your coach a guaranteed $100 million.
Listen, that's the thing. I don't want to hear this noise coming out of Oakland saying basically we can't afford to have two $20 million guys when, like I said, you're going to be moving to Las Vegas in a new stadium that's going to be flush with cash. You can afford it.
Not only they can afford it, and the other thing that's sort of gone under the radar, again, not only did he get rid of Khalil Mack, Raiders have the oldest roster in the NFL. Not only the oldest roster that, as long as we can tell, week one of the season, as long as we've been keeping track of this thing, going back to 2012. So, yeah, the Khalil Mack is the bright, shiny object, but again, we're going older. I'm not sure that ever works.
That doesn't usually work in the National Football League.
No, it doesn't. All right, big man, thanks for being with us. Golic.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
I'm hearing it in my head now. Liev Schreiber doing the reads. Jalen Ramsey, the brash, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But for every Jalen Ramsey, a team has a Keelan Cole. Cole, an undrafted rookie out of Wesley, Kentucky, is all about football.
Sports Center brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club has amazing shower hairstyling, oral care, and yes, shaving products. So, no matter how you get ready, they have everything you need. And right now, you can get an amazing deal on any one of their starter sets at dollarshaveclub.com/Golic. I'm really confused. We're talking about mayonnaise and tartar sauce because Joe Thomas, who joined us earlier and will join us once a week, had a salmon sandwich.
Salmon sandwich?
Say that 10 times.
Salmon sandwich.
With mayo on it and pickles. And I thought, cool, it's like tartar sauce. And then somebody said in a tweet, Miracle Whip is for cold foods. Mayo is for warm foods. Isn't Miracle Whip mayo? And then, of course, Stanzik puts up here, Miracle Whip is made from water, soybean oil, high fructose corn syrup, vinegar, modified cornstarch, eggs, salt, natural flavor of what? Mustard flour, potassium sorbate, paprika, spice, and dried garlic. Okay, is that not mayonnaise?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I was amazed at all. You don't care because you don't like any of them. You're never going to eat them.
I don't like any of it, no.
Yeah.
So we'll figure that out. Maybe somebody will celebrate with some mayonnaise ice cream or
all right.
something.
How about the people who dip their fries in mayonnaise?
Yeah, they do that a lot, by the way, in England. They put mayonnaise on the fries and the burgers and all that kind of, no. Not me at all.
I'll do that as long as I can wash it down with a Guinness.
There you go. Or any good pale ale is also good. Tennant's is a really good ale, by the way. Okay. So we've talked a lot about dominance. Like we know, you're talking the GOAT in football, it's Tom Brady. You talk the GOAT in tennis, it's Roger Federer. There are certain things that are clear.
Right.
Usain Bolt in sprinting. Right now, Katie Ledecky in swimming, which she's been able to do. But there's a guy who is absolutely flat out dominating and doing it in such amazing fashion, except for the one thing that you most associate with dominance, and that's winning. And it's not his fault. Yesterday, Mets pitcher Jacob deGrom did it again. His 25th straight start, giving up 3 earned runs or less. That is a new major league record. And in doing so, in classic deGrom fashion and in classic Mets fashion, he didn't get the win. He tied the record. Tied the record.
I don't even know where to go with this. Again, he's had 20 quality starts this year, breaking a tie with Tom Seaver in 73 for the single season. He's had an incredible year. His ERA is ridiculous at 1.68. He's battling Nola and Scherzer for the Cy Young, and those guys' stats, I mean, are incredible as well. Scherzer has been. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I don't. To me, he's not only the Cy Young. He should be the MVP of the league, for crying out loud. I mean, let's put this in comparison real quick, okay? Clayton Kershaw won the Cy Young and the MVP in 2014. He had 27 starts. Jacob deGrom already has 28 starts this year. Clayton's ERA that year was 1.77. deGrom's is 1.68. Clayton averaged just under 11 strikeouts per 9 innings in 2014. deGrom is already over 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. I mean, if you're going just on the dominance and the ability to just absolutely control the game from your position, he's doing it as good as anyone has ever done it, except he can't get any run support, so he's only 8-8. Clayton Kershaw was 21-3 that year.
That's amazing. Do you think he gets it over Scherzer or Nola? I mean, Scherzer has just gone 5 consecutive seasons of over 250 strikeouts, second longest streak only to Randy Johnson. I mean, he's been incredible. He's third in ERA. He's at 2.28. Aaron Nola's at 2.23, and then deGrom it's ridiculous. There's only 2 players under 2, and that Chris Sale over in the American League sitting at 197.
Yeah.
It is amazing. It would be unbelievable if he ends up with 8 wins and wins the Cy Young.
Now, do we think he's getting to 10? Because the lowest total ever to win a Cy Young?
13.
13
he ain't
with
getting
Felix
to 13.
Hernandez.
Obviously, he doesn't have enough
Fernando
starts
Valenzuela. Can he get to 10? If he gets to 10, is that enough? I mean, look, the numbers are what the numbers are, and the last number is one thing that's honestly beyond his control, because I believe he left yesterday with giving up 1 earned run and also got a couple of hits and didn't get the win.
If he's under 10 wins, do you think he gets it?
I don't know if he does.
I don't think so.
I don't know if he does. I think he should. To me, I think he should, because he's controlling what he can control. That's all he can do, and the other things are letting him down. Hey, we got a couple of Hall of Famers coming up with us on tomorrow's show. One of the most interesting tennis players of all time, Andre Agassi, plus we'll be joined by the dulcet tones of Al Michaels. Going to be fun. Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, real quickly, want to go play golf today?
Oh, hey, no.
Thanks.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to